kids that snort pixie sticks. And this is for the kids that starts fights for kicks. For the millions at home that feel all alone, that cut themselves till the knife hits a bone. I feel just like you. If you feel like me, then let me hear you scream out psych ward family. A 3G system in 1G ride, bass hitting so hard, feel like worlds collide. Man, 10,000 Cadillacs said it, let me hear it. Bitch, we claiming Cleveland and we ain't prepared to share it. So pop in some Wolfpack and put your dukes up, or do it like 3-6 and tear this club up. Bloodstains, cocaine, weed, greed, and power. Mushrooms got me here, be gone in an hour. I'm ready to trip and flip the script. Haters, stomach your pistol whip. Watch your bitches run. Where you going, son? That door is locked and a gun is cocked. Hammer back and I'm ready to attack. And I watch you drop to the sounds of a pop, pop, pop. That's what you get when you're fucking with me. You ain't nothing but a bitch ass wanna be. You wanna run your mouth, man, shut the fuck up. Don't sing it, just bring it and I'll rough you up. Cause I don't need no hook. This beat's that tight, I'll just shut up and let the bass hit you like.
Money's Crazy Mind contains language that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised, but will be completely ignored.
I'm sick of it, doing right, doing wrong. Parents pissed off every time I write a song. Smoke, crack, worship Satan, what the fuck is that? It's something funny, made for you to laugh at.
You're destroying America with your rap.
You're so full of shit, I need to call hazmat. The only way I would ever apologize
I gotta go
if
on
I
record
had
with
my
this,
face
all right?
buried
I
in your
really
sister's
do.
thighs.
Never in 39 years have I ever seen anything like this.
Okay, I'm sorry
It
for what
shows
it's worth,
the
but the best
fanaticism
part of you was the
of this
afterbirth.
fan base.
If
It's
you
crazy.
can't take a fucking joke, then go jump in the river. Na 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 na
Into the
na
return
na
of
na
Snoop
na, and I fucked your sister. You can't take a fucking joke, then go jump in the river. La 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 la
That it was
la
kind
la
of,
la,
for me,
and I fucked your sister.
If you want to continue to put this narrative out there that Cody finishing the story
What
the fuck, dude?
is this big daunting task, and Cody has all these mountains to climb and all these brass rings to pull
And of course, we gotta thank our official music sponsor, Psych Ward, for the continued use of funny.
And my balls on her chin, she's bobbing her head to this fucking beat. Damn, dog, man, your sister's a freak. Hey, baby, you like the Eagles? Wanna hear something?
So I guess this is the time where I open the show. What's going on, everybody? We are here. It's another Friday night. It's time to get in to the show. You see the new lightning effects there. We're going to let them play for just a little bit longer. Just a little bit more. love that new lightning effect, man. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the brand new edition of Money's Crazy Mind. We are back. We are getting everything rocking here. Of course, you hear him in the background, and you heard at the beginning of the show in the brand new entrance video that I got to give, I guess, myself a lot of prop for, because that was a video that we did right here in the Nameless Faceless Productions. And as always, I got to thank Psych Ward for the continued use of Funny Bone and all the other music that we are going to play here on the show this week. And then, of course, Growing Wings Adult Services for their continued support, and Keezy Productions. We here at Nameless Faceless Productions had to make a very difficult decision last week. While I was putting together the memorial show, part 1, for Randy Thigpen, and also, re-showing the original appearance of Psych Ward here on the show, some disturbing news came across my news feed on Facebook. And a longtime supporter of the show and a longtime friend is involved in a particular situation right now. I will not go into details of it because I don't have all of the details. I just know the information that is being shared around social media, and me being who I am, and me being a journalist that prides himself in integrity, I will not talk about the situation that is going on with this particular individual because I don't have all of the information. But the information that came out was quite disturbing. And because of that, this show, Money's Crazy Mind and Nameless Faceless Productions, has decided to distance itself from Tattoo Therapy Inc. and the Erie Art Gallery until this situation can fully come to light and fully be investigated. I am keeping very close tabs on everything, and I do have people on the inside that are not affiliated with Tattoo Therapy Inc. or the Erie Art Gallery that are also keeping a close eye on this. And based on the outcome of the investigation and everything that is going on inside of the investigation, will determine whether or not we decide to work with Tattoo Therapy Inc. and the Erie Art Gallery again in the future. I just wanted to get that out of the way first and foremost, because some people may wonder why their logos are no longer featured in the scroll. But other than that, it's been a tough couple of weeks. Obviously, the death of Randy Thigpen was Mr. Sick from Psych Ward was unexpected. It was not something that I, in my lifetime, ever, probably in my lifetime, but obviously not this soon, would have ever anticipated happening. We shared a lot about grief on the last episode, and I shared some stories about Psych Ward, and obviously we did a best of where I shared some of my favorite clips with those guys. And the way I based those clips, because some people might be wondering how I got the idea to even use those clips, seeing as how they were never used in the past in any best of Money's Crazy Mind or anything like that. I literally went back and I watched all of those episodes in their entirety. And as I'm watching them, I waited until I sat there and was busting a gut laughing. And for me, if I was busting a gut laughing going back and watching those episodes in their entirety, or if it was a moment where I felt like, especially in the case of the Damien Memorial episode, it was a touching moment, or it showed, the friendship between those guys and everything like that, then those were how those moments got shared. There was a little bit of criticism about that episode, about the topic matter, the subject matter of the topic. And as was very evident during that episode, we were experiencing a couple of technical difficulties. That was the first time that we had used that setup. It was the first time that I had gone live in the Keezy Production Studios. It was the first time for a lot of things. And it was the tryout, man. It was the practice run. It was to make sure that everything was working the way we wanted it to work for when the Women's Health Summit went on the next day. We spent a very long time after my show went off the air making sure that everything was working properly for the Women's Health Summit the next day. And even the next day, we ran into even more problems. But we took the time out, and we had the extra time slated to make sure that we were able to get those problems fixed. And was it a perfect show? No. But was it, for me personally, one of the best shows I felt I had ever done? Absolutely. Because we were being serious. We were talking about something that needed to be talked about. And just as much as women's health is important, men's health is as well. And grief is one of those things that is never really talked about or never really explored. And the fact that a show that is more known for dick and fart jokes went on and told a very serious subject. And you heard some of those dick and fart jokes in the psych ward clips that we showed afterwards. But the fact that a show that prides itself in being a show that doesn't take itself very seriously, even though I do talk about serious things, and for me, this show is very serious, and I do put a lot of work into this show, and I put a lot of time and effort into making sure that this show is exactly what I want it to be. That new intro video and the new logo is a perfect example of that. But the fact that we were able to put all of the dick and fart jokes and all of the Kevin Smith style humor and everything off to the side and talk about a very serious subject. Because I myself hadn't really been able to process everything that had happened in that situation, in me losing a friend of 20 plus years. Because almost immediately after that, my wife's aunt was ill and ended up in the hospital. And just yesterday was her funeral. So for the past few weeks, all we've had is just death after death after death after death. And this is the first moment where I've actually had to sit down and go, everything's going to be okay. Life is going on. And taking a new journey and a new approach to my own health, because I took what happened to my friend very seriously. And it was a little bit of a wake-up call, sitting there going, holy shit, this guy's been busting ass to try to take care of himself over the past couple of years. Had a slip up, and now he's not here. And to hear the other people that were there experiencing everything that I was experiencing that day, share very similar, stories of like, man, I got to wake up myself. I got to get better myself. And having Chris, Randy's brother, come out to me afterwards and say, brother, we both got to take this journey together. That meant more to me than anything. And it was a little bit of a wake up call for me as well, because I'm sitting here now and I'm realizing that when I'm talking to certain friends or even certain coworkers, the kind of conquests that we would share with each other back in high school, or the kind of things that we would normally talk about at school, now we're sitting there comparing WebMD or MyChart files. But this is a case, or this is an episode, I guess I should say, that I've been putting off to the side, A, because of the things that happened, and B, because I wanted to make sure that when we did this, we didn't handle it with kid gloves. We took the gloves off and we looked at it with the importance and severity that it needed to be looked at. And these are still two stories. Well, at least one of them is a story that is still, to this day, being talked about as how the fuck did that happen? And that is the most important part about why I wanted to do this. Because as you can see in the title, Gone Girl or Insanity, the Gone Girl effect and the Gone Girl syndrome in law enforcement is something that is unfortunately taking a very wrong turn and needs to be explained so that people can understand why it's happening. And I will admit, when I looked into the first story that we're going to look into here this week, my wife and I had the exact same reaction. These people are full of shit. And then as the story went on, and it turns out that everything that these people had experienced turned out to be the truth, and that this actually did happen, our reaction went from, these people are full of shit, to what? And there's other things that go into that as well. And we'll do all of that as we investigate the unfortunate scenario of the Gone Girl syndrome as it pertains to not one, but two different documentaries that are available right now as we speak on Netflix. And they came out about a year apart from each other. Completely different filmmakers, completely different reasoning for these films coming out. But at the same time, are linked together because of an unfortunate, and I'm going to call it what I feel it is, epidemic in law enforcement. And that is the Gone Girl syndrome. But to do all of this, we first need to reveal what two documentaries we're going to be discussing. And those two documentaries that we're going to be discussing are American Nightmare and Victim Suspect. As I said, two completely different scenarios, two completely different reasons for these documentaries to exist, tied together by one unfortunate tactic used by law enforcement to turn victims into suspects. So to take care of this, we're going to jump in to the Money's Crazy Mind newsroom. So as I said, when I first saw the documentary American Nightmare, I had to sit there and put on my skepticism hat for a while, because the story that this couple was telling was just complete and utter bonkers and didn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. And when you start to dissect some of the things that they're being told, you too are going to sit there and be like, are you sure this is legit? Are you sure this is real? So let's dive into it. Let's take a look at the story behind American Nightmare. So Denise Huskins says that when she was released on March 25th, 2015, by one of the men who had kidnapped her 2 days earlier, the last thing she was thinking about was ensuring that everything she had been through sounded believable. But almost immediately after reaching safety, Huskins, who was at the time 29 years old, started to realize that she had returned not only to a media firestorm, but to a brigade of law enforcement officials intent on proving she had pulled a real-life Gone Girl. Huskins and her now husband, Aaron Quinn, recount how their lives spiraled out of control after Huskins was taken from Quinn's Vallejo, California home in the early morning hours of March 23, 2015. Over the next 48 hours, police went from trying to pin Huskins' disappearance on her boyfriend to framing Huskins herself as the perpetrator of a scheme similar to the faked abduction at the center of David Fincher's 2014 thriller Gone Girl, which was based on Gillian Flynn's best-selling 2012 novel of the exact same name. The 3-part docuseries from the Tinder swindler filmmakers Felicity Morris and Bernadette Higgins combines interviews, interrogation footage, and audio recordings to chronicle how Huskins and Quinn's story became a horrifying example of what can happen when the justice system fails the victims of a crime. So what exactly did happen to Denise Huskins? In the first 2 episodes of American Nightmare, they're narrated by Quinn and Huskins, respectively, with each relaying how the night of Huskins' kidnapping and the days that followed played out from their perspective. Both parties recall being awoken in the night and to a blinding light and the voice of a man alerting them to the presence of at least one intruder in Quinn's home. In a story that she shared with ABC News, Huskins recalls, "I remember being asleep and hearing a voice and thinking it was a dream. But the voice kept talking, and I just remember my eyes shoot open and I could see the walls illuminating with a white light while that was flashing, and I could see a couple of red laser dots across the wall. And I could hear, 'Wake up, this is a robbery, we're not here to hurt you.' And in that moment, I just thought, oh my God, this is not a dream." The couple was bound, blindfolded, and sedated. Huskins was taken from the home in the trunk of Quinn's car while Quinn was left inside and told to wait for further instructions on how to deliver a ransom. He was also warned that there was a camera monitoring his movement, and if he contacted police, the kidnappers would kill Huskins. So this was part 1 of like, like it does sound slightly unbelievable, but then at the same time, you can almost look and realize that a lot of kidnapping cases happen, in the middle of the night, but they don't get sedated. There's no like lasers and effects and things like that. It's basically just they sneak in through a window, they grab what they want, and they out. And 99% of all kidnapping cases are done by a family member. It's the other 1% that are done by strangers. A perfect example of this is the JonBenet Ramsey case, which is still unsolved. Because investigators can't narrow down. Is it familial or was it a stranger? Over the years, there's been a lot of investigators that have looked into that particular case and said, we can't find any proof that the family did this. But there was also a lot of family friends that were in the area that night, some of which had never been, and still to this day have never been questioned by police as to whether or not they had any involvement in the disappearance of JonBenet. And the sad reality to a lot of that is, a lot of those people are now dead, and they could not be questioned. But let's move on here. In part 1, which was titled The Boyfriend, Quinn breaks down how he became considered to be a suspect in the case, explaining how police didn't believe his explanation of Denise's disappearance, and footage from the time that Quinn spent talking with the Vallejo detective, Matthew Mustard, showed Mustard telling Quinn he doesn't buy his story, and suggesting that Quinn killed Huskins in a domestic violence dispute and disposed of her body. After being questioned for 18 hours, Quinn's brother Ethan hires an attorney, Dan Russo, to secure his release from police custody and represent him moving forward. During the time that Quinn was detained, as he had told police would happen, the kidnappers tried to contact him both by email and phone about the ransom. But the police, and this is the part where you got to sit there and go, police put Quinn's phone in airplane mode for the entire time that he was there. That, to me, was a very shocking detail, and a part of it, again, where I'm sitting there going, really? I mean, like, it didn't make sense, right? Like, why would police put his phone on airplane mode? I mean, they could at least sit there and say, hey, put it on vibrate. But at the same time, if he's sitting there saying, hey, man, this dude's going to call me or email me or something about a ransom for my girlfriend's life, and if I don't answer the phone, he's going to fucking kill my girlfriend, you would think that police would want that phone to be accessible so that just in case this does happen, they can sit there and be like, bro, telling the truth. But that's not what happened. And as Huskins recounts in part 2, Gone Girl, that she was being kept in a remote location by her kidnappers. The one man she interacted with told her that he was ex-military and part of a criminal group that included 3 other members. He also said that the intended targeting of the kidnap was actually Quinn's ex-fiancée, Andrea Roberts, who had lived at Quinn's home until the previous September and looks somewhat similar to Huskins. So Quinn's got a type, and it looks like Denise Huskins. And then over the next 48 hours, Huskins was raped twice by her captor while he videotaped the assaults. There were certain details that were shared about the rapes and about the way that she was being held that immediately, especially me being from Northeast Ohio, immediately sparked bullshit. And some of the details were that she was blindfolded, bound, and not allowed to leave the room that she was being held in for most of the time that she was being held. And I just realized that I did not update this after after creating the new logo. So let me move some things around here so that we can make this look a little bit better, because the new logo is widescreen, which was on purpose. All right, there we go. Boom. Look at that. That looks so much better now. Okay. And that he would tell her, like, I never wanted to do this. I don't want to do this, but I have to do this because, whatever other reasonings that he would give. And a lot of what she was saying, because I've read Amanda Berry's book and Gina DeJesus's book, and I've also heard it on audio book as well. A lot of the things that she was saying sounded almost identical to some of the things that over the years Lily Rose, formerly known as Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus have shared about their experiences of being kidnapped and held hostage for over a decade by Ariel Castro. So for me, hearing a lot of the things that she was saying about how he was trying to comfort her, and, for the videotape sitting there saying, you have to make it seem like you want this, and then it seemed like this guy was trying to purposely build this scenario of her being a gone girl, and that she just didn't want to be with her boyfriend, or I think by that point they were even engaged as well, but didn't want to be with him anymore, and that this was sounding more like a gone girl situation. So by her explanation of the way that everything was being said, it sounded like a gone girl situation to me too, and that she was full of it, and that she was just reciting things that she had possibly, we're talking 2015. So by this point, Amanda Berry and Gina DeJesus had written their book. The Lifetime movie had come out, and all of the situations about what happened in Ariel Castro's home had already been released. And this was a bigger story than just Northeast Ohio, which is why the book was written, which is why the movie was made, and all of these things. So it is very possible that even in Vallejo, California, these people heard about what happened in Ariel Castro's house of hell. And just because I know that story very well, because I'm in Northeast Ohio, it sounded very similar to that situation. Very similar. She was eventually released 400 miles away from Vallejo, near the Huntington Beach neighborhood where she grew up. Without any ransom being paid, she then made her way to her father's home, where she was let inside from a neighbor's house after discovering that her dad wasn't home. The same day she was freed, Vallejo police announced that her abduction appeared to be an orchestrated event and not a kidnapping. And Huskins was forced to hire her own lawyer, defense attorney Doug Rappaport. Mr. Quinn and Miss Huskins have plundered valuable resources away from our community and taken the focus away from true victims of our community while installing fear among our community members. And that was something that Vallejo police spokesman Lieutenant Kenny Park said during his press conference. Quote, so if anything, it is Mr. Quinn and Miss Huskins that owe this community an apology. So, as I've kind of said here, for a lot of this, there were things about their stories that did not ring true. And even still, just sitting here and reading the events and, going over the other things that were done after this case was, or after Huskins was released, it does kind of make you sit there and go, okay, where's this going? Where is the crime? Because it doesn't sound like one had been committed. And you'd be right. Because even at this point, and like throughout her recanting her story, or retelling her story, I shouldn't say recant, because recant is a different terminology. But in the entire time that both of these two were telling their story to police, and even after she was released, and she was released near her parents' home, a lot of it came out to where it's just like, this doesn't seem like it's legit. And it seems very similar to the story of the movie and the book Gone Girl. And even with the way that she was telling about what happened to her, it's sounding like what a real life crime happened. And I mean, obviously there's that part of me in my head that's sitting there saying these details are so similar to what happened to Amanda, Gina, and Michelle that there's no way that this could have happened. None. But apparently feeling guilty over how Huskins was being treated by law enforcement and in the press, the kidnappers emailed multiple statements to the San Francisco Chronicle stating that the couple was in fact telling the truth. The emails included photos that corroborated the details of Huskins' story. Quote, "We cannot stand to see two good people thrown under the bus by the police and media when Miss Victim F, Huskins, and Mr. Victim M, Quinn, should have received only support and sympathy." End quote. And then another email read, quote, "We are responsible for the victim's suffering, and the least we can do is come forward to prove that they are not lying." End quote again. Even me, I'm sitting there saying, who wrote this? This can't be legit. And then plus, so as somebody who has deeply studied the Zodiac murder killings, the Zodiac killer, I guess is the way I should have said that. Knowing that the newspaper that these people contacted was the San Francisco Chronicle, I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, do we have yet another copycat? Is that what's going on here? Do we got a copycat Zodiac coming back after all these fucking years? Like, is that what's going on here? And he just couldn't go about killing the girl. I mean, is that what we got going on here? Somebody, please. Where are the hidden cameras? Like I know I got this camera for doing the show, but where are the hidden cameras? Like I gotta be getting punked right now. This can't be listed under the true crime section of Netflix. Like it just can't be. You know, where's Ashton Kutcher? Is this punked? Like, is that what's going on? Like what? So much of this story by this point, and I'm hoping that everybody that's watching this right now agrees, or listening to this, if you're listening to this on Spotify. Thank you. So much of this just sounded like pure and utter bullshit. I walked away and started making dinner, and I'm just like, part 3 cannot, nothing can happen in part 3 of this that will convince me that this is real. That happened. After months of being subjected to false accusations that one or both of them had faked Huskins' abduction and sexual assault, as well as living in fear that one or more assailants were still out there, an attempted kidnapping in Dublin, California, around 40 miles south of Vallejo, made for a break. Oh, by the way, so anybody that may not know a lot about the Zodiac case, San Francisco, Vallejo, and other areas of surrounding that were the Zodiac killer's target ground. So this is all happening in the same area that Zodiac was in as well. So that's the other reason where I'm sitting there going, could this possibly be some kind of person trying to relive the glory of Zodiac? Zodiac is probably one of the most notorious of all of the serial killers because he's never been caught. But not only had he never been caught, he's never been identified. And by this point in 2024, it'll probably never happen. There have been people that have thought to have been Zodiac. But there was also a very recent documentary which made me sit there and go, ooh, that's interesting. In the fact that there might have been more than one Zodiac. So to know that this whole thing is happening in this area where Zodiac was happening. You know, Lake Berryessa, Vallejo, San Fran, that whole area. And this is happening decades later in the same area, knowing that Zodiac is still one of the more prolific because of the fact he'd never been caught and because of the fact that he'd never been identified. There's a lot of mysticism around Zodiac and a lot of people that could be influenced in a negative way by Zodiac. But this attempted kidnapping that happened in Dublin made for a break in the case. June 5th, 2015, an incident bore striking resemblance to Huskin and Quinn's story, except this time, the threatened couple had managed to thwart the intruder, who dropped his phone inside their home in the scuffle. Dublin police traced the phone to a woman who told them it had belonged to her son, Matthew Muller, a former U.S. Marine and Harvard Law School graduate. Now, when I heard that little sentence there at the end, Harvard Law School graduate, I went back to the emails. Miss Victim F, Mr. Victim M. That sounded very lawyer speak, but I didn't put two and two together at that point because I'm still sitting there thinking these people are full of bullshit and lots of it. After searching Mullen's South Lake Tahoe cabin, Misty Caruso, one of the officers who took part in the arrest, started putting pieces of the puzzle together. Looking back at all the evidence, there was just no denying that this wasn't his first time committing a crime. I just had to figure out where these other crimes occurred. And that's something that Caruso told ABC News. Muller, who had previously committed similar home invasion and assaults around the Bay Area, was ultimately charged in Sacramento federal court with kidnapping for ransom. While he never revealed why Roberts was his intended target, he pled guilty and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. He was later charged in Solano County with the sexual assault of Huskins, as well as robbery, burglary, and the false imprisonment of Quinn, and sentenced to another 31 years in state prison. He is serving his state sentence concurrently with the federal sentence. Huskins and Quinn maintain that there was more than one suspect involved, but yet no one but Muller has ever been charged with the crime. So this guy was a serial. So even before the thwarted attempt in Dublin, even before Samantha Huskins, or I'm sorry, I can't believe I forgot her name that quickly. Denise Huskins. Even before Denise Huskins, he had done this several times before. And every time he had devolved to the point, to the way it was in Huskins' case, and then even the way it was in the case afterwards. And the documentary never really got too much into the history of Muller, and I appreciate that, Because a lot of times in these true crime documentaries, and I think it's because of the fascination that we here in the United States have with shit like this. You know, like I said, I'm a huge investigator into trying to solve Zodiac. I'm a huge, I'm into the stuff like this, right? But too many times in these sexual assault cases like this one, there's way too much emphasis put onto the perpetrators and to the people that did the crime, and not enough put into what the victims actually go through. Even on shows like Law and Order SVU, you have that similar scenario where there's this need to know why the perpetrator did this. And in this case, I mean, obviously, it would have been nice to know. But everything that I've read about the trials against Mueller and the police interviews with him and things like that, this dude has never copped to doing to a reason why he did this. He just wanted to do it. And he the one thing that he did say was that he was trying to find like the reason he was videotaping it was to use it as like evidence. And there was a particular episode of Catfish, the TV show, and this guy has actually gone on to be like scumbag of the universe and has been arrested and things like that. But there was a particular episode where this guy was at the same time manipulating multiple women online into thinking that he was somebody he wasn't. And when Neve and Max, so that'll just show you how old this episode was, because Max was still on it. When Neve and Max showed up with these girls, his reasoning behind everything that he had done was that he was doing research, and he would keep sexually explicit photos. He would keep sexually explicit videos that these girls would send him, and he had them all ranked, and he had them, he had little notes like suspecting that she's being catfished, knows she's being catfished, but yet still continues the relationship. Things like that. And as the girls, Neve and Max, were walking away, and this was something that made Neve and Max just completely flip out on the dude, because he's still mic'd, and the producers and the sound people and everything could still hear everything that he was saying. He literally sat there, turned around, looked at them and said, "I will miss each and every single one of you," and then turned around and bombed away. And even after Neve and Max went back the next day, and they were talking to him alone, sitting there saying, like, do you understand why this is wrong? Do you understand why these girls are pissed at you? Do you understand everything? There was still this cockiness and arrogance about him where he's just like, it was just an experiment. And then to find out that he was continuing on to doing it years later. And then there was another person that was doing something very similar that, like I said, it was actually two people, I'm sorry, that got arrested for, doing what he was doing and catfishing and things like that. Sorry, the camera went blurry, and the trick with this particular camera is if it goes blurry, put your hand on it and it'll refocus onto what it's looking at. And actually it looks better than it did before. So, but because of these things, that's the part of me that sits there and goes, I don't want to know why these people are doing what they're doing, because 90% of the time they're assholes anyway. And they'll claim insanity, they'll claim mental illness, they'll claim all of that, because that's the niche thing to do these days, is to sit there and try to base everything on mental illness. And as a mental illness sufferer myself, yes, there are times where I can just sit there and go, my depression makes me feel like a dick. And unfortunately, I can't control the anger that comes out sometimes when I'm dealing with depression or I'm dealing with anxiety. This past month and a half has been a perfect example of that. But for me, what's been helping me get over that has been knowing that while there are these bad things that are happening in not just my life, but my family's life, there's a lot of other good things to look forward to, and a lot of good things that are happening behind all of those bad as well. and focusing on those things and focusing on making sure that I'm still being the best person that I can be is what's getting me through. But I don't want to put too much emphasis on William Mueller because, as I said, a lot of that has been done. And there's even news stories that say we were disappointed in the fact that they didn't focus too much on William Mueller. No, because the story wasn't about William Mueller. The story was about Denise Huskins and Quinn and what happened to them and the way that they were massacred unfairly in the media and how the police did zero investigating and actually did enough to damage the investigation by putting Quinn's phone on airplane mode so that even if the kidnapper, William Mueller, did contact him, he would have no way of proving what was happening. So, I sat there and I said, there cannot be other instances of bullshit like this happening. And saying that, you know, oh, she's just a gone girl. She just ran away because she didn't want to be part of a relationship. Or, you know, she knew about his ex-fiance and her leaving. And there's actually a lot of that's missing from this that I would really have liked to have known. Like, what was the story behind his ex-fiance leaving? Because, like, she left and she's gone. Like, she's just like face of the earth, just poof. Okay. And, you know, the filmmakers did try to reach out to her, and apparently law enforcement did get a hold of her and did talk to her and, you know, kind of tried to sit there and say, like, look, if he's telling you this happened, it's a good possibility. But at the same time, she's also just like, but there's a reason I left him. And they never really get into that. But the fact that William Mueller thought that he was actually kidnapping her and not Huskins, where and how long had Mueller been planning this to where he didn't know that she left over a year prior to all of this, right? So there's still a lot of questions about that I would have liked to have seen answered. But it got me thinking, like, there can't possibly be other stories like this that are out there. And then, as everybody knows that has Netflix, once you finish one thing, it gives you recommendations to other things. And I saw a trailer for one of the suggestions that it gave me. And it's kind of funny because when this documentary ended, one of the suggestions it gave me was actually American Nightmare. I'm like, what? How is it possible that there are two documentaries out there that are about completely different situations and take place in completely different parts of the country, but yet have the same unfortunate conclusion? Mull on that for a little bit. And we're going to go to break here. And when we come back, we'll talk about the other documentary that shares an unfortunate outcome with American Nightmare. All that when we come back right here on Money's Crazy Mind.
It's been a long week and it's been a long grind. Stay wasting time at this little job of mine. It's time for the weekend, hear what I'm speaking. It's time for cheap and visual peeking. Got me tweaking, I need a release. I wanna swing fists, I wanna rip some shit. Tennis club up and bang your head. Psych war music, make you feel the bloodshed. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot. They wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot. They wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot. They wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot. They wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Come get bucked out if you wanna step up. Step back cause you're gonna get fucked up. Getting crunked off the funk, it's the twist of mind punch. It's time to get pumped, so jump up, jump up. Bend your head till your neck feels broke. We left you in the dust, all you see is the smoke. Psych, one moment down. shut up, run up, 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 shut up. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Can't stop me 'cause I'm close to the edge. So fucked up, I'ma put you to bed. Don't give a fuck, through caution to the wind. Anger set in, not a corner to begin. I'm an A-bomb, watch me explode. Your time is up, get ready for the death mode. Psych ward, the best from the Midwest. Killers and convicts, filling the bass hit. Run up, shut up, 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 run up, shut up. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Run up, shut up, run up, shut up. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Run up, shut up, run up, shut up, run up, shut up, run up, shut up. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot. Kids don't wanna dance, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot, they wanna start a riot.
Oh wow, that sounds really great. Wow, that sounds like a really good deal.
Who are you talking to?
The Northeast Ohio Ghostbusters.
Hello, Northeast Ohio Ghostbusters. What are you wearing?
Khakis?
Well, that sounds hideous.
Well, they're Ghostbusters.
All right. We are back and going into hour number 2 here at Money's Crazy Mind. And my lordy. So what you guys don't know, because I do record these and play these at a later time, what you guys don't know was I just had to take a 3-hour break to try to figure out why OBS kept crashing during the break. But the good news is I was able to get it fixed. I was able to record the break. And now here we go. Hour number 2, Money's Crazy Mind, looking into Gone Girl or just insanity by the police. In the first hour, we talked about the very compelling Netflix documentary American Nightmare, and we are going to get into the second documentary that we are looking at today, which helps solidify some of the insanity that was in Gone Girl, in American Nightmare, and taking a deeper look into the phenomena that is happening in law enforcement called the Gone Girl Syndrome. But before we get into that, the last time I was on the air when we were discussing grief with the lovely ladies over at Keezy Productions, we discussed that the Northeast Ohio Ghostbusters were working on getting some things in place for the premiere of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with the deets. Oh yes, that's right. I have details about where, when, and how much. Well, not so much how much, but where, when, and I guess this is going to be going down. So first up, Thursday night, March 21st, for the world premiere of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. The Northeast Ohio Ghostbusters are going to be at the Cinemark in Valley View. We will be there starting at 5 p.m. doing a meet and greet outside of the theater, and we are going to have not one, but two different kind of promotional posters for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire that we are going to be handing out to fans for free. On top of that, we're going to be taking pictures. The Ecto Ram is going to be parked out front as well. And we are also going to have some special guests there with us as well. No, it's nobody from the film or anything like that, but we will have some special guests there with us as well. And then at 7:05, we are going to be jumping into the Cinemark XD Theater to see the world premiere, the very first showtime for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And we would like all of you to come out and join us Thursday night, March 21st, for that very special viewing of the film. And like I said, showtime is at 7:05, and we are viewing it in Cinemark XD. So make sure you guys join us for that. But if you can't make it out to that one, now we don't have a poster for this one yet, but if you can't make it out to that one, the very next night, Friday night, March 22nd, we will be at AMC Ridge Park Square, same time, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And then we will be going into the 7 p.m. viewing of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and we would love for you guys to join us there as well. From what I'm hearing from Ridge Park Square, some of the other businesses that are in that shopping center are also going to be getting involved, doing some very special Ghostbusters related things for the weekend's events. So hopefully you guys can come out, join us that weekend, premiere weekend for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. We can't wait to see you at the movies. All right, so let's get right back into what we were talking about here today. We've already discussed in the first hour American Nightmare. Now we are shifting our focus to discuss Victim Suspect. This one was a lot more eye-opening. Now, obviously, what happened in American Nightmare was very crazy and just mind-boggling that something like that would even be allowed to happen. But Victim Suspect took it to a whole new level. And we are going to now jump back into the Money's Crazy Mind newsroom, and we are going to discuss Victim Suspect. Now, Victim Suspect was a documentary about this other crazy phenomenon that had been happening to a bunch of college girls that were going out and trying to report the fact that they had been sexually assaulted by either people that they were going to school with or just somebody in the community, or it might have even possibly been a total stranger. So what made this one so compelling to me was the fact that each and every single one of these girls shared a very unfortunate and from what I'm finding out, common thread. So Victim Suspect kind of focused on 4 different cases from all over the country, actually. 2 of them took place in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they were University of Alabama students. The others were other girls from around the country who had very similar experiences. But at the end of this, we're going to discuss something that was very shocking that came out during the course of this woman's investigation. This was her very first story working a case like this. And what she uncovered might make a lot of you uncomfortable. But Victim Suspect starts with the story of Nikki Yovinio. Now, that name may sound familiar because this case got national attention because of what happened. And she reported that she was raped by 2 Sacred Heart University football students. She had a rape kit done. A female detective contacted her, and she told her story to the investigators. They did the rape kit. 3 days later, that same female detective contacts her before the rape kit had even been tested and that the results had even been returned, and informs her that she did not believe her story. She thought she had lied. And that she was going to be immediately charged with filing a false police report and tampering with evidence because she had a rape kit done. And that was evidence that could have been used in an actual rape case, according to the investigator. She pled guilty and was then massacred by the media. And given this time that we were in, this was in the middle of the Me Too movement. So to be in the middle of the Me Too movement and have a false rape allegation being talked about in the media obviously garnered a lot of attention. And how could somebody do this and take resources away from people that could have actually used them? She also tried to appeal her conviction in 2020 and was denied because she was told that because she pled guilty, there was no way that she could get an appeal. She refused to be a part of the documentary on film, but did agree to allow the filmmaker to share her story. And it's her story that started the entire investigation. How could this have happened? What happened? And then some things came out later on that make this even more disturbing. But while looking into this case, a shocking number of cases started coming to light. Like the case of Emma Mannion. She went to the University of Alabama and went to a football game with some of her friends. After the game, they went down to Frat Row and started talking to a group of guys. While walking back to a car, a small group of the men pulled her into a car, and while she was trying to fight him off, was assaulted. She woke up the next day and went to the hospital to be examined. Police then came in to interview her. Emma shared her story of the events that happened. A rape kit was done. A few days later, they call Emma back to come in to interview her again. They tell her that they've pulled all of the video surveillance footage from the area and did not see any indication of Emma being raped. The surveillance footage from, I already said that. The male detective then asked her if she had sex with the accuser. She said yes, but it was not wanted or asked for. He told her that he didn't believe her and blamed her for wasting his department's time and resources. And then, of course, just like in Nikki's case, charge her with filing a false report. While waiting for trial, Emma hears about another case a year earlier in the exact same area and then asks that her attorney find a way to get her a plea deal. Emma, of course, like Nikki, pled guilty. She was worried about the fate of that girl and what would happen to her. She was quoted as saying, "I was raped in a vehicle in a gravel parking lot outside of a well-known bar near campus. I spent the following day in the bed and in denial. How could that have happened? The week following my rape was more shocking. My hospital experience was horrible. My interview with detectives took place in my exam room while I was by myself, wearing nothing but a hospital gown. And within 3 days, They told me that they didn't believe me, that I had wasted their time, and that they needed to arrest me for filing for falsifying a report. I'm sorry. The police didn't believe me. News outlets made a mockery of me. And 5 years later, I'm still trying to tell my story. The unfortunate part in all of this is that I was never given the privilege or right to process my rape. I was too busy processing the re-traumatization by police. That other story that Emma saw while she was awaiting trial was about a girl named Megan Rodini. And she accused a prominent family member from Tuscaloosa of raping her. TJ Bunn is from an oil family. Megan and a group of 10 of her friends went out that night to a bar for trivia. And he was there with some of his friends. She admitted that he was trying to pick her up, and he took her back to her house, and a friend went with them. He then told his friend to go to bed and ordered Megan into his room. Police asked if she resisted. She told investigators, she told him that she had to leave to go be with her friends. The police then ended the interview. They called the suspect and asked him about the incident, and he denied he ever had anyone over. The next day, police contacted his attorney, and he admitted to having her there, and then accused her of stealing money, his car keys, and other items. He also stated that everything was consensual. Police brought Megan back in again for questioning, and her parents decided that she needed to have someone there with her during the questioning this time, and they hired an advocate. But the advocate left before the interview concluded, and then that's when the police started hammering into her very hard. They questioned her about the theft, and then police leave the room again, and after a total interview time of over 2 hours, she stated that she even feels that he had an advantage over her, and that she doesn't feel comfortable with questioning any longer. In a recorded video, when the police were speaking with TJ, the police stated that it was a young woman who made a bad decision and it was consensual sex. Investigators then also fed TJ his statement when he was being questioned in the police department, and that he had basically agreed with everything that they said. So instead of them sitting there saying, "So what do you say happened?" you literally see the detective with a notepad, and he's saying, "So basically what happened here was a moment of consensual sex. The girl felt bad about the whole having the incident happen, and she's trying to accuse you of rape." The detective afterwards even told TJ that if he was in TJ's position, that this is exactly how he would want the investigation to have been handled. And TJ says, "Yeah, it looks like you guys did a very thorough job here, and I just want to thank you for that." Megan eventually moved back home with her parents, and later finds out that even though TJ did ask police to not file charges against her as long as she agreed not to file charges against him, that the police were pursuing charges against her for false reporting. The result in this case is that Megan committed suicide. In her note, she admitted that the reason for her committing suicide was that not only was she raped by Bunn, but also by the police that investigated her rape. Her family then filed a lawsuit against the University of Alabama, the Bunn family, and the Tuscaloosa Sheriff's Department. The suit against the department was dropped because of a law in Alabama that states that you cannot sue law enforcement agencies. And in Tuscaloosa, all cases end with Sheriff Abernathy. And even though the filmmaker was trying to reach Abernathy for the entire time she's working on this documentary, every time she would get this close to having the sheriff in her crosshairs, he would find a way to snake out of them, and never answered a single one of her questions, and said that if she continued to try to pursue him, that he would file charges against her for harassment. The same went with the DA and other officials in the Tuscaloosa area. However, there is one detective who is now going after police agencies for the wrongdoing that they're doing in these cases, and agreed to speak to the filmmakers, but then also stated that he got involved after Megan's family's lawsuit against everything that happened in Megan's case. Megan was a suspect of false reporting within 15 hours of the incident happening. Even after she appeared at Abernathy's house, Abernathy refused to come outside. The filmmaker, her first name was Rachel, I can't remember her last name, then started flagging cases with similar outcomes from all across the country and found out that this was an epidemic nationwide. And Detective Hirschman, the detective that decided to speak with them, stated that when he started investigating sex crimes, that the number of assault cases being reported by women were going up, 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 and up. And then he admitted that there are tons of ways to convince these women to recant their statements and to not pursue charges against their assailants. And the reason is because the caseload was getting so high that they were getting in trouble by their superiors for having a high caseload with no results. So they would start sitting there saying, sorry, we don't have enough evidence to convict this, or we have video evidence that proves that you were making out with the victim or with the suspect before the sexual act happened. So because you were making out with him, that was your way of consenting. Or you were drunk, so you may not remember giving consent. Or you were wearing clothing that was very provocative and giving the suspect the thought that maybe you wanted something to happen. Any number of things like that. And then the girls go, oh, okay, thank you. Case closed. We can file that one. And this is a very sneaky way to lower their caseload. Nikki Yovinio's case was one of them. In an interview, Rachel DeLone, there it is. I did actually put it in here. I just didn't read far enough. Conducted an interview with Dr. Walberto Cotto Jr., who was the lead investigator in Nikki's case of the Bridgeport Police Department, and he admitted to lying to Yovinio while questioning her. Police call this tactic a ruse, or the Reed technique, in order to manipulate her into confessing. He also admitted that he didn't know that one of the football players Yovinio accused of assaulting her had been accused of another sexual assault just 1 month before Yovinio's case. Now, both of the football players that Yovinio was accusing of assaulting her have filed defamation charges against Yavinio. These are the reasons Nikki Navinio did not want to appear on film in the documentary. But this goes even further than this. Diani Bermejo had a little bit of a different story to tell. She was assaulted by someone impersonating a police officer, and they too charged her with filing a false report. Now, what makes Bermejo very different in other ways is that at the time that she was assaulted, she was a criminal justice student. And she was also a large fan of Law & Order SVU. Her favorite character, probably not much of a surprise, but Detective Olivia Benson, portrayed by Mariska Hargitay. During her interview, Diani had a vague description, and the police even had a suspect in mind that they liked for this because he had been involved in other incidents like this in the past and got a lot of people into thinking that he actually was a police officer. Police then started gathering video and tried to find his vehicle. Because if they thought if they could put his vehicle, a Crown Vic, which obviously is a very notorious police vehicle, at the scene of the assault, or in the area where Diani says the assault happened, they would then have enough to go after him. All the footage they found showed nothing. But most of them were from an area where you couldn't see the exact intersection to where she said it was happening, or were angled in a position to where you couldn't see any cars that could possibly be pursuing her. The video was also so dark, all they see is headlights going across the screen. They couldn't make out what kind of vehicle they were from, be it hers or the potential vehicle that could have been following her. The police did not find a suspect and instead charged Bermejo with filing a false report, based on the fact that the video showed nothing. Bermejo was ultimately cleared of her charges and is now suing Virginia's Washington County Sheriff's Department on a dozen allegations, including fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and malicious prosecution. So obviously all of these cases have the same thing in common. All of these law enforcement agencies are using the Gone Girl scenario and the Gone Girl syndrome to try and clear their sex crimes caseloads because of the huge number of cases that are coming out. And in each and every single one of the interrogation videos that they used, that De Leon used in this documentary, you hear the exact same phrases coming out of each and every single detective's mouth. You were drunk. You were under the influence of drugs. They could have slipped something in your drink, which is illegal in itself, mind you. You were wearing provocative clothing. We just don't have enough evidence to convict. Are you sure that there's no way that you could have consented to this? You may have just forgotten that you consented to this. You're feeling guilty that you did something with someone that you may not have wanted to do it with in an original basis. Any single one of those lines. And in every single one of these cases, but one, there was zero investigation done to prove whether or not these were legitimate sex crimes or not. And while there are definitely differences between all of these cases, the case of American Nightmare and the case of Victim Suspect, one conclusion is still the same. And that grinds my gears. These are all considered to be the exact same phenomenon, and that phenomenon is the Gone Girl syndrome, based on the film in which a woman runs away from home because she didn't want to be in her relationship anymore, and then comes up with a false story that she was assaulted and held captive for 4 days. Detective Hirschman even stated that this is a narrative shared between officers in these departments, and will even use that narrative that half to 2/3 of any rape case that comes through the department, the victim is lying. However, this is a fake statistic. Less than 1% of cases that come before sex crimes detectives are false or are some kind of revenge tactic. And the worst part about it is that in almost every single state in this country, the police are legally allowed to use these tactics and to lie to the people that are coming before them in order to get them to recant statements. And this doesn't just mean rape cases. This is anything. They can use lying as a tactic to get you to admit to things that are not true, to get a conviction. And it is legal in almost every state. And in every case that was investigated by Rachel in this documentary, every single one of them but one, the victim recanted their statement. One of the tactics that the detectives were using, not only in the cases that she saw and the ones that they were highly investigating during this documentary, but in other cases that they had discovered in the making of this documentary, is using white noise machines that they turn on after they leave the room so that they can have a conversation right outside the door and nobody can hear what's being said inside the room. All you hear is the white noise machine. And they did this in Bermejo's interrogation. And then as soon as they were done, they walked into the room and charged her. So like I said, both of these films have a very unfortunate connection. And that connection is that the Gone Girl syndrome and the Gone Girl scenario is being used by law enforcement officials to try to stop these convictions from going through, to lighten a caseload. And you would think, especially in this era, and all of these cases were going on during the Me Too movement and beyond the Me Too movement. So in a time when the focus of this country was on trying to get the scumbags and the rapists and the pedophiles and all of the other things off the streets, and to show that law enforcement and the other investigators in this country were taking these cases seriously. Not only do you have local law enforcement doing this, but in the case of Denise Huskins, the FBI got involved. And they were the ones that put it into the Vallejo Police Department's head that this was a case of Gone Girl syndrome. And even though documentaries like these have been released and are doing everything that they can to try to shed a light on these unfortunate incidents, there is very little that is being done to make sure that cases like this and incidents like this do not take place anymore. Because what are you going to do? Just like in the documentary just like in Victim Suspect, they even stated they cannot file Freedom of Information Acts against every single police department in the country. But they can look at the ones that have some of the most egregious and mounted incidents like this that have happened. Not everything works like it works in Dark Knight, where you can have 156 indictments for the exact same thing against every mobster in the city of Gotham. As much as we would like that to be the case, and as much as that should be the case, it's an unfortunate truth that even today in 2024, victims are still being denied due process. There is a couple of happy endings here, though. In the case of Denise Hutchins, they did find the man that attacked her, and they did prove that she was telling the truth. The police have never apologized, but they did sue the city of Vallejo for what they went through and destroying their reputations through an outrageous and wholly unfounded campaign of disparagement. They ended up settling out of court for $2.5 million, but continued to advocate against the department's actions. And in a 2021 op-ed piece for Open Vallejo, Quinn argued that the Vallejo Police Department should be disbanded for officer misconduct. The same can be said about the Tuscaloosa Sheriff's Department for everything that they did. They caused a young woman who was trying to sit there and do the right thing and put a criminal behind bars for raping her to lose her life. And the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, the Tuscaloosa Sheriff's Department just didn't even want to investigate that case because of Bunn's prominence in the area and his family's prominence in the area. While he's supposed to be being investigated for sexual assault, he's having a conversation with the detectives about going fishing and how it's peak season right now for fishing. That's not an investigation. That's friends having a chat. They never once wanted to look in to what T.J. Bunn Jr. had done to Megan. Just like they didn't want to go after the University of Alabama players that raped Emma. Just like the police didn't do an investigation against the man that raped Dominia. And just like Nikki Yavinio's case was thrown out when she tried to appeal. Emma also is now a victim's advocate and continues to teach dance, which is what she was doing at the time that she was assaulted. And with that, I think we came to the best possible spot to end this week's journey of Money's Crazy Mind. Gone Girl, or just absolute insanity in the way that the police are handling these kinds of investigations. The next time we are going to be live on the air is in 2 weeks. And in that time, it's going to be just about time for WrestleMania. So we might take a journey back onto the road to WrestleMania. But It's also going to be after the premiere of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So I will be giving you a look at the event that we held Thursday night at Cinemark Valley View with all of our fans and all of our great guests that are going to be joining us. But also, we're going to be talking about just how awesome the film was. Everything I'm seeing is saying that this film was going to be nothing but awesome. So until the next time we're on the air, not only do I need you to take care of yourself, but I need you to take care of everyone else around you as well. And until next time, have a week.
Money's Crazy Mind is proud to be the exclusive flagship broadcast of Nameless, Faceless Productions.
That's all, folks.